So basically a continuation of last week's match, and we have a bunch of details here that are deserving of a mention. First is Aoi's conversation with Asari and Kuroda. So they basically confirmed what I had predicted weeks ago about Kuroda wanting Aoi to pass it to Asari, but more importantly, they made the concept of a triangle as today's main topic. You see, we can both agree that before this episode, I've made zero mentions of this concept, and that's because the show's been told from Aoi's point of view for the longest time. And because of this, there was zero chance of it being mentioned from a writing/directing standpoint, which I think is a nice touch to emphasize Aoi's narrow-mindedness back then. Another thing about the triangle, but this is more about myself, is that I didn't learn the triangle from football. Honestly, I never did, but that's because I learned it in basketball. More specifically, Michael Jordan's triangle with the Chicago Bulls. So yes, for those unaware, the concept of a triangle isn't a football exclusive playstyle, but rather, it transcends football and can be applied in a lot of team sports. Another thing worth mentioning is the return of what I dubbed in previous episodes as Odin's Eye. And this time, there are two ravens here, which I love the detail. Why, you might ask? Because it's an obvious reference to Hujin and Munin, the two ravens of Odin, and a piece of trivia for you all is that Hujin means thought in Old Norse, and Munin means memory also in Old Norse. And personally, I love the fact that the author used these two ravens to represent what happens when Aoi's genius is in effect on the pitch. Definitely one of the better ways of representing the mind of a playmaker. And one more thing that is worth mentioning today is the concept of a fleet in being. You're probably wondering why I'm mentioning a naval concept here. It's because you can also use this in football, and Aoi already did without him knowing. A fleet in being is essentially a warship that exists solely to threaten the enemy but will never be used for combat. And in football terms, that's what most space creating forwards do. They make space to destroy the opposition's defensive line, and they rarely ever score because while capable of doing so, their space creating capabilities are far more valuable from a strategic viewpoint because it forces the opposition to commit more resources than necessary to contain these space creators. It happened in Aoi today, and it also happened to the Tirpitz back in World War II. And with that said, that's basically it for me for this episode. I thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next episode.